This is the 1987 release of G.I. Joe Tunnel Rat. Came to know this character through the G.I. Joe the movie. Now the other character that I really got hooked into because of the G.I. Joe the movie, aside from Tunnel Rat, is my personal favorite, Lieutenant Falcon. So Dallas Vintage Toys, where I got this loose figure from, was kind enough to include the file card of this figure. So Tunnel Rat's file name is Nikki Lee, primary military specialty is EOD, secondary is combat engineer. And it's nice to know that even vintage figures, you could still get this. So if you're in the Dallas or the Fort Worth area and you are searching for G.I. Joe figures, especially this classic line, the ones that really came from the 80s, then do visit Dallas Vintage Toys and you won't regret your visit. So it's also nice to note that figures way back then was really cheap. Look at this. So this is the file card actually from Repeater, and I only noticed this just today when I was preparing the video for Tunnel Rat, and I stumbled on the price tag for this Repeater figure, which was whoa. Way back then, this figure was sold just for $2.99. So figures nowadays, if you're going to get a Marvel Legends action figure, so your standard Marvel Legends or your DC Multiverse, something like this, would cost about $20 to $25. So the price of action figures really has appreciated so much. And with this thing that we have right now, the supply chain, so it's hard to really take a hold of action figures, especially the new releases. So let's talk about Tunnel Rat. So this figure comes with really a bunch of accessories: a machine gun of some sort, a bag of some sort, and a really large backpack. Wow, that's really a terribly heavy backpack. Way back then when I was still in grade school, so if you had this figure, your friends or your classmates would really envy you, because if you are into the military themed action figures, G.I. Joe action figures, this was one of the coolest figures because of the accessories that you get with it: a bag, a really large cool gun with a scope of some sort, and a backpack with additional accessories on it, a flashlight. So yeah, this was really a cool looking figure. Now if you go to Dallas Vintage Toys, they're really a cool store to go into, because if you're hunting for action figures like these, figures that came from the 80s, then you are in luck, because they would really sell you figures that as much as possible are in good condition. So for example, they sell G.I. Joe figures like this one. They would throw in all of the original accessories that came with the character. So even if there are some stretch marks or wear marks, of course that is acceptable. You have to just bear with said problems, because this is an old figure. But they really throw in the original accessories. and that's what I like about them. Plus they would change the o-rings, and possibly as much as possible, if they could take care of the screws and some items that have wear and tear on the figure, they're going to take care of it before they sell it to you. Now, this figure came with these accessories, so a machine gun of some sort, that really large bag with 2 flashlights attached on it, and a demolition bag, or a bag that contained demolition devices. As you could see, there's that marking there, T and T. As you could see, the accessories already have wear and tear on these parts, especially this bag, because this TNT bag was really prone to damage. Way back then, when I was still in grade school, this thing would always break, especially if on that area. As you could see, wear marks on the straps. It's just a thing, when you had this toy, it would always break on this part. So after 2 weeks of owning this toy way back then, this thing would always go broken, and sometimes, well, the owner just didn't want a broken piece, he would just throw the damn thing. And wow, I wish that I didn't do that, but my classmates did. So yeah. And the thing that would just be retained with this figure would be that large gun with a scope of some sort, and that backpack. And the thing, aside from this bag, the thing that would always get lost with the figure would be these 2 mounted flashlights on the back, on the backpack of the figure. Whoops, that's really back heavy. So let's take this thing out. Okay, so that thing, this when you attach this thing to the back of the figure, it makes the figure really top heavy. Okay, so let's talk about this backpack. I just took out the figure because it would really mess up the video. So let's just concentrate first on this accessory. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 2 flashlight pieces. So these flashlight pieces would mount on the back of the backpack this way. Back on the backpack. Redundant. It would mount on the backpack. So I correct myself grammatically. Okay, this way. And actually, it's not friction mounted. It's just there's a hole there, and you place that in, and that's it. If you tip this over, those things would really fall. So my classmates or friends who own this figure, aside from breaking the bag, the straps on the bag, they would lose these 2 flashlights. And by the way, these are really cool pieces because the tunnel rat figure could hold on to these flashlights, but the handle on these flashlights is just way too big that sometimes it would stretch this area on the hands of the figure, so quite unsightly. So these things were not much of use, so they were just attached to the bag of the figure. So just this way. Now the weapon that the main battle implement of this tunnel rat figure is this machine gun of some sort. So let's study this automatic weapon. So actually it is an amalgamation or a morphic transformation of several machine guns, because this part came from another machine gun, that part comes from another machine gun, and that handle is just way too long for a machine gun, especially if you have a bipod. So that bipod must really stretch out towards the forward position to accommodate that pistol grip for this machine gun. That's way too long. Well, that's it. That's the way they designed things way back then. This scope is not actually a targeting scope or a magnified scope. That is some kind of night vision device that was used in Vietnam. So just by the body of the scope, it looks like a starlight imaging or night imaging device that was used in Vietnam. But it is really weird that this night vision device would be mounted on the barrel of the machine gun, because this barrel would really be shaking so much when you are firing the weapon. So when you're looking through the scope, if this was a real thing, of course, I could just imagine that if you're firing this thing and you're looking through that scope, then your image would be terribly blurred because of the action of the barrel. Well, but that's just it. Of course, this is just a toy, so it is not a 1:6 scale representation of a military figure. It's a GI Joe, so more of a fiction piece of a machine gun. That's it. But it's still a good looking piece to go with your tunnel rat figure. There. So let's go back to the tunnel rat figure. Now it's nice that the name of the character and how he looks is actually derived from an actual military service in the Vietnam era. We have the tunnel rats in the Vietnam era, or those American soldiers or GIs that were commissioned just to clear Viet Cong tunnels. So that's it. So actually the setup of the figure, this tunnel rat figure, is really the how those guys who operated in the Vietnam era, searching for Viet Cong in the tunnels or in the jungles of Vietnam, would dress themselves up. Gloves, a pistol that is on the torso of the figure, and just this mere setup plus the knife on the side. Of course, you'd be squeezing through really tight spaces, actually spaces that are not meant to be walked on vertically, but you have to crawl on it. So of course you'd be shouldering just a pistol in there and a knife to poke around to see if there are booby traps in those confined spaces. So actually, these pieces are just thrown in into the figure to spice up the character of the figure. But in real life, if you were a tunnel rat, then you would just operate this way. A flashlight, possibly one of these, a pistol of some sort with a sound suppressor, and a knife. Yeah. So just imagine if they sold this tunnel rat figure with just a pistol, a flashlight of some sort, and a knife, then it would really be bland. But if you sold this figure with all of these things attached to it and a really beautiful back art or card art, then wow, these things would really sell. So I'm so just realizing the value of this toy back then, plus how much I looked at it way back then, that I didn't realize that, whoa, actually the actual military service, they had this thing and that. But just looking at it from a kid's perspective with all of the accessories, then wow, so really really cool figure. But since I'm an adult right now, that I know I'm into 1:6 scale or 12-inch custom figures, then I really appreciate this figure more because of the real branch of service, the tunnel rats in Vietnam, and the cool toy, the memory of the cool toy I had when I was a kid in grade school. So that's it. So if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe.